What's going on? We're back, the Man to Man Pod. I'm one half, Antoine Bethea. Got my co-host, DBut.
Yes, sir.
And man, we got a special edition for you guys. We down here in Miami, Florida at the Fontainebleau Hotel. The 12th annual, the Sports and Entertainment Group Retreat.
Yes, sir.
And we're blessed to have two wonderful gentlemen, Adisa Bakari, Jeffrey Whitney. And we kick it off, man. Again, man, appreciate you guys coming on the show.
Appreciate you having us.
For sure. Second time, repeat guest.
Appreciate
it.
Repeat.
I ain't gonna say how long it takes too long to get back on. I seen some other cats get back quicker, but
it's love. It's love. But now let's kick it off, man. I've been fortunate enough, Adisa, man, for you to represent me my entire 14-year career, and we spoke on this the first time you were on the show when Jeff, you came on board as well. And I always said, one thing that, and it was a conversation that we actually had, was that, I think you should do something different as far as agency-wise. Mm-hmm. Like, get the guys together. We can all talk, we can rap, and talk about different things that we got going on. This is 12 years in, man. Just kind of talk about why you guys do this, and what's the whole purpose of getting the guys together.
Now, I was curious to see if you remember that conversation, because the whole genesis behind this event was a conversation that Antoine and I had years ago. Antoine was noticing, and forgive me for putting words in your mouth, but he was noticing the conversation and the dialogue in the locker room, and it was a little off. I mean, it was certainly different from the conversations that we have about using the NFL to create certainly an NFL legacy, but also to position yourself for a certain kind of life after you've playing, and quite frankly, to create generational wealth. And some of the conversations that were taking place, and with new generations of players coming into the locker room, Twan was just noticing that the conversation didn't seem to be in line with those goals. And so one year he proposed, he said, man, we should bring cats in together every year before camp, just so we could rap to each other and bring experts in various industries in to expose guys to different things. And so we launched, back in 2010, we launched the first retreat. We did it in Washington, D.C., where we're headquartered. And it's grown ever since. We spent a couple years doing it in Vegas, and we've been parked here at the Fontainebleau for the past 6-7 years. And it's an opportunity to bring young players in to sit at the knees of guys like yourselves who've done it. It's an opportunity to introduce them to different business spaces, different business industries. A lot of players who come in the league, as you all know, want to be entrepreneurs. Yeah. And oftentimes, successful people, regardless of their industry, they think because they have success in one area of life that automatically that success will transfer. But the reason you're successful, in this case football, is because of the amount of hours you've committed to that. You've developed an expertise into playing the sport, right? And so to be successful in something else, you have to develop an expertise in that something else. Yeah. Money doesn't make you successful, right? Just because you got money doesn't mean you could be a real estate developer tomorrow because you grew up in an apartment building. Right. You got to study real estate, and things of that sort. So the idea was to bring all the players in together for them to learn from each other, bond, understand the uniqueness of the position that they're in as professional athletes, be introduced to other industries, other people, and at the end of the day, quite frankly, make better versions of themselves, make whole people, right? Not just jersey numbers. And so, it started with Antoine's idea, and 12 years into it.
KOG with the
idea. You know what I'm saying? I be throwing some shit out there. Now, it's up to the people if they want to grab on to it, but I throw some shit out there.
We grabbed this one and ran with it.
Yeah,
it was a heck of an idea.
They don't shout me out about it, but it's all love.
I want to ask Jeff, how did you guys meet? What's your background, first of all? Because like we said, we are familiar with Adisa, had him on earlier. What's your background, and how did you and Adisa connect?
Absolutely.
Get this thing started?
Great question. So Adisa and I both are University of Wisconsin law graduates, and so we were at University of Wisconsin in Madison together many moons ago. And so we met there, became friends there. Adisa went off and did his thing. I kind of went off and did my thing. 4 or 5 years, I think, into both of our kind of practices. I was doing litigation at a large firm. Adisa was doing executive compensation and corporate work at a firm. We literally made it funny. We bounced into each other, just bumped into each other at the sandwich shop.
Yeah.
Hadn't seen each other in 4 or 5 years. I look up,
In DC?
In DC.
Yeah.
We just ended up in DC. We connected at that point. Adisa had actually started a sports practice in law school. He actually was like, Adisa was like, this is what he wanted to do from the moment, which is, you know, you rarely see that happen where someone has this kind of dream and they make it happen.
Yeah.
And Adisa is one of those guys. So in law school, Adisa actually he was pitching people in law school, right?
Foolishly so.
Hey, you gotta get started.
Yeah, you gotta start somewhere.
Ron Daniel. Remember the name Ron
yeah.
Daniel?
Adisa was
One
pitching.
of the first dudes I pitched while I was a second year law school.
And what'd he tell you?
Yeah, no. But the funny thing about it, not to cut you off, it's funny how things come full circle. In the latter half of his career, we talked again. But anyway, go ahead.
So Adisa had started in law school. So we bump into each other.
Yeah.
He's like, what you doing? I'm like, what you doing? We have a conversation. We weren't doing this at the time. But Adisa was like, look, this is what I'm gonna do. And Adisa said, look, I'm gonna make it happen, and I'm gonna call you one day, and I'm gonna bring you over, and we're gonna partner up. Of course, you know, I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. You know, that ain't never happened. And one day, I get a call from Adisa. Now, we'd been doing some things together. Adisa would take recruiting trips. He'd come by my house. I'd hop in the ride with him. We'd go to Rutgers and all these other places. And I think a little bit of Adisa just said if he probably could deal with me in a car for 3 or 4 hours because I like to talk. And so we'd get in the car, we'd drive. And then he called me and said, look, I built this practice. I need another agent. Are you interested in doing it? And for me, this is something that I'd always wanted to do, a chance to really give back to the community, really do some things with people that look like me and come from the same kind of humble beginnings. And I literally was like, I'll be over there tomorrow. And I literally went over the next day, and we've been rolling ever since, man.
Let me talk about, you know, you just brought it up as far as you want to get into this business and give back to your community and work with people that look like you. So a question to both of y'all, being two brothers in this space, in the agency business, how is it? One, owning your own practice, but then also being in a space where typically years back, it was a older white man that was really at the top of the agency space.
Yeah, no, that is, for me anyway, that is the question. And I'm gonna answer it, but that's also one of the more difficult things about how I view what I do.
Yeah.
Both Jeff and I were successful lawyers at large law firms. Most people would have looked at our careers and say, guys, you guys are on the way to the pinnacle of success, you know, big firms, partner, all that. But that's not why I'm on the planet. And I knew that. Delaware State, where I did my undergraduate studies, shaped me in the kind of way that helped put the lessons that my grandmother was trying to instill in my brother and me growing up.
Right.
They kind of clarified it, the professors I encountered at Del State. And it was clear at Delaware State that I never was going to play Sunday football, right? And I'm okay saying that now, since yesterday. No, I'm okay. I was okay with that.
4940, that 4940 won't cut it.
That ain't cut it.
4940 wasn't going to cut it. You might be being nice with the 49.
I agree.
But through my maturation process in undergrad, I knew two things. I was never going to be poor again. Wasn't nothing cool about that growing up. And what I did had to service the people who supported me my whole life. And for me, that was people of African descent and that community, that local community, that regional, that national, that international community, where there is a common history. And we try to shy away from it, right? When we're in positions of power and influence, or well, he doesn't have to. No, we do have to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't necessarily mean I hire you, but I do have to talk to you because we have a very unique history as black people in the world over, but certainly black people born in America.
Right.
And it's that history that makes me have to give special consideration to you, right? And I don't shy away from that. And that is the very essence of who I am. And I can't hang that on the shelf when I go to work, right? So no, I'm gonna get to your answer, but when I walk in the room, I don't come in with blackity black stuff, but blackity black is who I am, and I don't apologize for it. Yes, football is a very, it's a tremendous opportunity to play professionally, but that's not why God put you on this planet, right? And for me, the essence in our existence or what we're trying to do in these physical forms is figure out what we're supposed to do while we have the time to do it, while we're here. Yeah. And football, professional sports, affords these young men the opportunity to not just transform themselves, but to transform families, transform communities. And so when I was making the decision about what I wanted to be when I grew up as an undergraduate, one, I wasn't going to be poor. And two, I had to work with black people. And so I set off law school. I hung up my cleats my junior year, set off law school to go to law school. Did a little, some resume stuff, White House intern, some Model United Nations stuff. Got to Wisconsin, did well. Funny, Jeff was the dude in Wisconsin law. He's a year ahead of me. That if you was black and you went to Wisconsin, you meet Jeff Whitney. Meet Jeff Whitney, because Jeff was super smart. He was the wizard.
Yeah.
Right? So I knew what I wanted to do. And it's funny when I get young people coming to me all the time, or young and old, quite frankly, hey, you guys hiring? And my question is, and shouldn't be the litmus test, but for where I am 50 years old, where I am is still my litmus test. Why do you want to do this? If it's simply to acquire money, fancy cars, nice red carpet events, there's a lot of other ways to do those things, right? I believe what we do continues to be a ministry of sorts. It's a service to our community. I help young men who come from beginnings very similar to mine take full advantage of this wealth building opportunity that professional sports affords, to get them thinking a certain kind of way. So even when your playing days are over, you're on a trajectory that even if you want to, you can't get off. It's like the Matrix and that blue-red pill thing. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I wish I did take the other pill. And I could just go through life oblivious to what's going on. What they say, ignorance is what?
Bliss.
Exactly, and it is. But I'm not ignorant to the realities of what's going on as they relate to our community. So the reason we do what we do and the way in which we do it, because this retreat is not, it's not free. Fountain Blue ain't just opening up the hotel to us and all these things. We pay for this, the sports and entertainment group, right? The goal is for our clients to make more money than we make, and most of them do, because they do their jobs on the field well, and we do our jobs in the negotiating room well. But we pay for everything because I want the players to come in and hear something different. And then we see the influence we have on our young players, because then you get guys like Antoine Bethea, who thought of the idea, didn't need it as much in his latter years, damn sure don't need it now, but still comes back to give to the young people. Maurice Jones-Drew is in South Africa. We'll be calling in tonight at the dinner to talk to the young people. Right? We got retired players to want to come in to talk to the younger players about how to be successful in this business. So as owners, look, man, in life, my African history and heritage is a thing of honor. It's not anything that I'm like, man, my ancestors had to deal with a lot of stuff that today, fortunately, we don't have to deal with. I always evaluate, is this the strategy utilized by our predecessors? And oftentimes, if it is, we need to maybe rethink the strategy. Learn from prior strategies, but we certainly shouldn't be repeating the same things, right, that those who came before us did, right? We need to be evolving and moving forward. And so some of the struggles that the folks who have come before us had to endure, because of their struggles, we don't have to endure. Right. So when we go in that living room, oftentimes we got to convince folks that we have the necessary qualifications to do what we say we can do. But that's cool. I understand our history. I understand that we were taught to not value ourselves. I understand that we were conditioned to see less than when we see folks who look like us. I understand that we also were conditioned to believe that white ice was colder and that your whiteness made you smart. Right? So I get that going in, and I can put that to bed in 30 seconds. So when I hear sometimes my contemporaries, lament how sometimes it's hard recruiting and, because they think, this and this and that, we don't deal with that. We don't get that. When we get in the living room, our presence alone commands a certain kind of attention from our people. Right. They know we're serious. We got the track records of the Antoine Betheas, Maurice Drews, Manfortes, whatever. We've been doing it longer than many of our clients have been alive now. Yeah. Right? And so, and at the end of the day, I'm not doing this when somebody asks me a question. Ain't nobody behind me, boss. Right? You need something, you talking to the right dude. So it ain't, all right, let me check back with you. I'm going to go back to the office and I'm going to check with Mr. Sones. Nah, this it. And then, and this is the beauty about evolution and how we are. The young people whose living rooms we for the majority of the time are standing in, they want folks who look like them to work for them too. There's a heightened level of consciousness, of awareness.
But let me say something, right? I agree with you to a point, but then I also feel like, and I think it's a part of the process of just not knowing, or just the evolution of history, Like sometimes, I'm pretty sure, to your point, it's like you walk in the room and they like,
Yes.
Absolutely.
All the time. Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've been in a room, and I get it, history is history, where people are like, so you all are lawyers? You actually went to law school? You actually are barred? So having that understanding, I think, is necessary, right? It's absolutely
And it
necessary.
prepares
Y'all still get this.
We still
to
get
the
this to
2022.
this day. It's in 2022. But here's the point, though, and Adisa and I talk about this in the office. I guess it was a couple of years ago. I think the Washington Post wrote an article. There were a bunch of black agents that were lamenting the fact that they didn't represent any white players.
In fact, one of the black agents, not to begrudge the person, I understand the sentiment, but who was a successful, it was not an owner agent, it was an agent working for a larger agency owned by white people, which is fine. But they put as their test of success, right? Again, the pinnacle for them would be when they start to sign white players. And see, that's a product of our history as well.
Right.
You're in a business where 80% of the people that you're desiring to represent look like you, but you're defining success by whether or not you can represent 20% of the people.
Yeah.
You're in a business where the stars in this business look like you.
Yeah.
But your litmus for success is convincing people who historically have marginalized you to now see value in you. See, I don't have that problem. Look, we represent white players, black players all day long. I come in the room as Adisa Bakari, Jeff comes in as Jeff Whitney. What you see is what you're going to get 100% of the time, right? And so I know my worth. Started with Evelyn Pitts, who raised me. I know my value. And so I'm not about convincing anyone. Now, here's the reality, Twan. When we meet Lil Ray, Pookie, whatever, and he's still on that old, that antiquated mentality about value and sensibility as it relates to self-worth. Then I tap Jeff, because Jeff, the more diplomatic of the two. And I'm like, can I tell him the truth, Jeff? We've been in meetings all the time. I was like, Jeff, can I talk?
I get to kick under the table.
I know I'm not going to sign you. And we're probably not a good fit anyway.
Right.
But I'm going to give you a little bit of something that maybe not click right now, but a couple years from now, maybe that thing can come on.
Yeah.
And I'll give them the truth.
We always say, look, at the end of the day, we are who we are, unapologetically so. We're going to sign who we sign.
Yeah.
And so our approach has always been to just be organic with it, authentic with it. As far as being black business owners, I don't think there's another way that we could do this the way that we do it. And so for us, man, we pride ourselves on being black owned. We pride ourselves on providing this service, not just to black players, but whoever's looking for this type of representation. It's very different than the traditional sports representation.
But let's pause on that. Because when we do that, you hear this still in our community. Oh, I'm not going to do business with you just because you black. Ain't nobody, first of all, no one's suggesting that.
Right.
But the mere fact that we're in a business designed, and many would argue we're in an environment designed for our peril, our demise. Then to micromanage, we're in a business where you don't see a lot of ownership of people of African descent. Our history suggests that we shouldn't even be sitting upright, right? It's a history designed, again, to marginalize. And so when folks get in positions that you all are in, right? And everybody has their stories, right? Their individual stories, but in the end, they kind of collective stories, because our stories are very similar, right? Yeah. Because this history wasn't by consequence or by accident, coincidence, it was designed. There is something to celebrate. So when we say we're proud that we're black, because the odds are hugely stacked against us every single day. And I try to impress upon the young people and the families that, yes, it does mean something different to say that your agency is 100% owned by the very people who share that similar history.
And particularly, we're talking about sports and entertainment, when most of the talent that we know are black, right? Yeah. Basketball, football, whatever the sport may be. If we're talking entertainment, we're talking singers, we're talking talent. Most of the talent that we're talking about, they're black. So absolutely, So
go back to origin story, to your question. In college, I'm meeting with my mentors, and I said, one, I ain't gonna be broke no more. Yeah. And two, I knew I had to work in a space where I'm working with people who look like myself. And then my man, who's still my mentor, he said, well, you couldn't ask for a better industry then. Because we could debate ad nauseum when we do, that society has relegated us to sports and entertainment. That's really the only space where we can truly have a level playing field with respect to the performance, right? And we'll be judged based on our performance. But we're still performers. And I'm like, okay, that's my area then.
Yeah.
I'm going to represent athletes and entertainers. And I'm going to encourage the very people that I work for to be more than just performers, to be owners.
But like you said, you found out early at Dale State you weren't going to be playing on Sundays. And that's the case for a lot of people, whether you found out in high school. At some point, we all going to be told, hey, you got to lead the game or the game going to leave you. High school, college, whenever that is. So I always, when I'm talking to young guys, young women, always talking about, because like you said, we've been relegated to the performers, but the ecosystem around that, like the agency, the litigation, the media. Like everything. You look at the media and the people that own the media space and how that looks. And people talk about the lack of diverse hires and coaching and stuff. I'm like, you look at any corporate, you look at any Fortune 500, the higher you go, the wider it gets. But I want to something one of you guys mentioned earlier, and I've heard agents say this a lot, and some of them bullshit and some of them are keeping it real. But a certain player that you know is good for, it's a good fit or not. 'Cause some agents I feel like will represent anybody that's gonna bring that money in. And for you guys, I feel like it's real when they say, this player may not be for us. How do you navigate that? How did you guys navigate that? Was it ever the situation where maybe you did sign up with somebody and you guys found out quickly, like, hey, this probably ain't a good match?
No, that's rare. It's happened, but that's a rarity. And that usually has an organic way of working itself out too. I will say over the past 22 years, we've been very good at targeting folks who really resemble what we've built, who we've shared similar personality. We always say in the room, the Antoine Bethea, Maurice Jones-Drew, those type personalities. And it's no different when you say players, tend to represent the personality of the coach. I think clients represent the personality of the first person working for them with that agent. I think the players are looking for some personality compatibility too. We have the luxury of being selective about who we represent. And we say the same thing. Look, if you simply see yourself as a football player, we're probably not the right shot for you, right? Because unapologetically, and I get it, coaches hate when I say it, and I understand GMs or whatever, but I don't give a shit about Super Bowls. You need to as a player, that should be a goal. But my success is defined by when you retire, your kids ain't got to fucking worry about money. Your children's children don't want anymore. Now, it'd be great. We got Super Bowls and the Hall of Fame and all that. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of dudes with Super Bowl rings that they take into pawn shops.
Absolutely.
And gold jackets that, wherever they may be.
Yeah.
That don't have the financial legacy that this opportunity affords. So for us, we're looking for players who certainly want to maximize the opportunity that the NFL affords, which is a tremendous one for themselves, their families, their community. But also know that they got something to give way beyond the sport.
Yeah.
Maybe related, but way beyond the playing of the sport. And more often than not, on average, at least 10 to 12 a year, we find dudes who have that as part of their mentality.
It's amazing. We'll always get a call from a GM or a personnel person, and they'll say, hey, I knew that guy was y'all's client
before
he even told me, because I see the way he handled himself, see the way we came into the building.
And we'll also get calls from GMs saying, hey, have y'all talked to such and such kid at such and such university? He'd be ideal for y'all.
So that speaks volumes. So like that just goes to show the foundation that you guys have set. So I want to ask you about the responsibility of being an agent. I know me and DBut, we kind of discussed it once before and laughed about it, where when he was going through his process, the agent was like, look, if you don't call me at 10 o'clock at night, I'm not the guy for you. Yeah. But when it's contract negotiation time, I'm a ride for you. One thing I like about you guys, not only did we have a player-agent relationship, I say we had, we're brothers now, where we can talk about anything in life. And if I needed to call you at 11 o'clock at night, 1 in the morning, you're going to answer. If not, you're going to call within the next 30 minutes.
Right.
What was it that you said, this is the take that I'm gonna have with my clients and not the other?
It's funny because it wasn't anything by design. I'm bringing my authentic self to this experience and starting this business, right? And I only know how to move one way. If I'm if I'm gonna say I got your back, I got your back, right? I'm my word is my bond.
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't just. Don't get me wrong. Look, and you're right. In the lead up to the question, technically, the only responsibility professionally the agent has is to negotiate your contract,
right,
and to help you navigate that contract during its term. That's it. That's the fiduciary responsibility agent to player. And so the agents who do business that way aren't really doing anything out of the ordinary. They're doing their job. But for us, we define our job to be a little bit more. We're trying to help young men become whole people. We're helping them, quite frankly, enter manhood, right? And we tell families all the time, we desire to be an extension of the family. We told you, Twan, all those years ago that this wasn't a 10-year deal, right? This is a 30-plus year deal, right? And it's way beyond sports. The funny thing is, we told the same thing to Darius Butler as well when we recruited him.
Let me grab my Uncle Nearest. Shout out to Uncle Nearest.
That was before my time, so I need to hear the story.
But no, in all seriousness, it's just how we mold. But here's the challenge. Here's the challenge of it. You and I are roughly a little more or less than 10 years apart.
Right.
So when we started this journey together, I'm uncle, big brother kind of relationship to you.
Yeah.
Now, I'm older than many of the parents of the players we're recruiting. And so although we have younger agents in the office, we're now coaching them up on the importance of having, absolutely, make no mistake about it, every time a client is on the phone with you or you're in that client's presence, they need to be reminded that their success is connected to you, connected to your counsel. But also they need to also know it's more than just the business of the sport, that they have someone that they can lean on for all things, right? And so helping our young agents create similar relationships, because I mean, again, I'm 50 years old, what, 21, 22, nobody want to hang out with me at 50, you know? Right. But our younger agents are about 10 years the senior to the clients that we're signing now, and can we replicate the same type of personal relationships that you and I have with this next generation?
Yeah, so I'll say this, that I think Adisa and I are, to use these words, in a relationship or partnership, we're equally yoked, right? We're good together in that we kind of have the same kind of mission, right? We really, at the end of the day, it'd be easy for us to just do your contract, fade to black, and then come see you in 3 or 4 years when it's time to renegotiate. We come from, I think, similar backgrounds, kind of see this practice the same kind of way, that it's certainly more than just being your contract negotiator. As Adisa said, this collective bargaining agreement, the CBA, basically says to the agent, all you have to do is negotiate the contract and then help with the contract. Neither one of us are cut that way. We're cut a certain kind of way. I couldn't imagine ever turning my phone off or us not being available. We want to be those people. We tell our clients, the first call you make, good, bad, or otherwise, you call one of us, right? I think that we joke about it. If the body needs to be buried, you call me and Adisa, right? At the end of the day, those are the type of relationships that are important to us, that we develop those relationships. It's one of the reasons that we're not a mill, we're not a factory, we're not trying to sign 100 players every year, we're building this practice through really deep, strong, meaningful relationships. Nothing warms our heart more than seeing Antoine Bethea come from where you come and end up being the person that you are, not just a football player, football, whatever, right? But becomes a business person, entrepreneur.
And talking about heartwarming, Antoine may or may not know this, but I would get calls in your early part of your career, your mother saying, call your client. And that, for me, just as a parent. Right?
Yeah.
And your mother's like, Antoine, see you as another big brother, That's what we want. That's what we value. So the idea of parents entrusting us with their children at a very critical part of their journey is not a small thing, man. And so it's something we value. Again, I believe unapologetically, it's that our unique history as a group of people affords me a special lens into the life of my clients, where I can see them, I can see their fears, I can see their vulnerabilities, even when they're trying to be, strong and tough and all this other stuff. I'm like, bro, you ain't fooling me, man. You can be vulnerable with me. You can let me know when things aren't good. And obviously we talk about this during the weekend of the retreat. And then Twan, to have off air, on air, but to have a dude like you still in my life, still got business stuff to do, but we play a little bit too. But still wanting to be involved with these young players who coming behind you. You take a client like Stephon Diggs, right? We just did a big youth camp of Emory Heights Playground, my hood, where I'm from. And we take care of 300 kids, right? Coming back next weekend, Stefan is doing Black on the Block, right downtown New York Avenue, DC, where we're gonna feature a couple hundred black businesses and expose them. I like to think I had some influence in that decision making,
That's real. That's
making them understand the impact outside of consumerism,
Yeah.
right, that they can have with their careers.
That's real.
And so the only way, in my mind, to be able to have that kind of relationship is to impress upon these young men that we do care about the men wearing the jersey. That quite frankly, the thing we care about the least is that jersey number.
Yeah.
Right? And so in order for that, we got to build that trust, and it requires us to build a relationship to be constantly involved in the lives early on.
Gotcha. Now I want to go back. Probably gonna push the conversation a little bit to a different place. But something you mentioned earlier about, hey, you don't care about Super Bowls. Well, you care about Super Bowls, but that's not your business to care about Super Bowls. Right. So now you have players. It's a funky area to navigate now, because it's something we didn't even deal with coming up. With players coming in now, you got high school players getting nil deals and marketing off the field and money. So it's a lot more that you're dealing with coming into the NFL now with draft picks that you don't have to deal with when AB was coming out. So how do you guys as an agency, I'm sure you have a team, but how do you guys as an agency deal with that with the players? Like, hey, like you coming in, and then how do you deal with that as an agency? Because, to future agents coming up that maybe want to get in space, and then players, where should their focus be going into college or, things like that?
I'm gonna let me just lead off with this, because this part of this is some sausage making that we're gonna let your viewers see. Despite all the stuff people put on Instagram, right, or social media,
Yeah.
there's only a small number of NFL agents representing the entire league, one, and there's only a small number within that number who are profitable, right? And we have the very good fortune of partnering with families and players who want our style of representation.
Yeah.
And our style of representation does not begin with a bribe. Clear-headed, without hesitation, even though I just hesitated, without any hesitation, that we don't buy players.
And
right?
to the viewers and the listeners, when you talk about buy players, it's that families, and this is part of the culture of what it is. Agencies, whatever. It's always been this. So when you talk about buying players, it's a family going to an agent and say, hey, we need $500,000.
Yes.
If you want us to sign.
Yes. And our response is, I'm sure you could get that money, but you ain't gonna get it from the sports and entertainment group. Good luck.
And then to your point where you're saying that, you guys are fortunate enough to be profitable, where you might have some other agencies that's buying these players
and are not profitable.
And they're not getting that return.
And that's their model. Who am I to judge? So I'll say this.
Oh wait, before you move on, and even when you get into them buying players, be careful with that paperwork, because sometimes it's advances.
The devil's in the detail.
You got an agent that's winning, and then you end up maybe signing with somebody else, and you think you good money, and they keep track of every cent. So
it's a lot that goes on.
But it does get back
to
kind of what we always say. Again, I don't begrudge the players or the families or the agents. At the end of the day, for us, our motto has always been, we're going to sign who we sign. We're going to attract the people who are attracted to what we attract to. We have a business model that's worked for 20 plus years. And if that's what players, families, and other agents want to do, then that's what they ain't no knock.
We
do what we do.
If an agent going to give me 500, hey, give me that.
And so for us, it's reaffirming that we have a business proposition that people value, right?
Yeah.
The clients we are signing ain't little name dudes, right? Yeah. And dudes are turning down
sizable
these financial inducements to sign with us. So that speaks to, that's again a heartwarming thing and reaffirming that we do something right. But to your question about the NIL work, for us, it's there are levels to playing field for us, because dudes are less enticed by some of this bread that these agents offer, because they killing it from the NIL dudes in college.
Yeah.
And the college, if we're speaking plainly, all they did was legalize what was being done anyway.
Yeah.
Right? You get Nick Saban and some of these other coaches complaining about what other institutions are doing, then we're going to have to do this now. Now you got to formalize it. Yeah. And your boosters come together and put these little fake sponsorships together to sign these players to your school. Again, that's just a part of the culture, right?
That's it.
But it minimizes on many levels, right, the desire of the family to just look for a quick cash payment because they've been getting it through the NIL. So, but to the bigger part of the question, that was self-serving, but to the bigger part of the question, yeah, we're going to see a great deal more disaster because you can't, again, back in the day, Twan, remember this, there was a time where clients were watching Breaking Bad on Netflix. And it was Maurice Jones, who was always, you gotta watch it, John, crazy, you gotta watch it. And so I'm binge watching the series Breaking Bad, right? Chemistry teacher or former scientist turns chemistry teacher turns into crystal meth deal.
Yep.
And so one episode, he's meeting with his distributor. The old boy from Do the White Thing. Why ain't there no pictures on the wall?
Yeah.
Sal, right,
Yeah.
dude. And so he's the distributor, and he was telling the chemistry teacher, the now drug dealer, you're a wealthy man now. You got to learn how to be wealthy. And that one line has always stuck with me. Most of our clients are not coming from positions of wealth. This is newfound wealth. This is first generation wealth. And oftentimes what happens is they try to bring the practices of subsistence, the practices of maintaining, right, during these bouts of poverty, this cycle of poverty. They try to bring it into this newfound wealth. And those strategies that your family were utilizing to keep the lights on, they don't apply now, bruh.
Yeah.
Right? And so you got a lot of young players making NIL money, coming into quick money, big money quickly, not understanding what it means, what the responsibilities of it are. I mean, I'm not talking about responsibilities. I'm talking about the legal responsibilities that this new wealth. And so you're going to have many more disaster stories, but those situations require what? Competent business legal counsel. And at the core, that's what we are. We're lawyers. Right? So again, a family who has a highly regarded prospect who's been getting a great deal of money in college through NIL or whatever, and if you're looking for legitimate business people, that stuff is out there.
Yeah.
Not just the Sports Entertainment Group, but certainly best provided by the sport. But that stuff is out there. And so for us, I mean, it is what it is. I think the bigger argument is that the schools are still not willing to share the revenue from these games that these kids generate.
Yeah.
And so by refusing to do that, they created this Wild West kind of deal where anybody could pay you and all that and let the families figure it out. I mean, we sent out the first year of the NIL, we sent out all these advisories, like the tax consequences, tax imputation, right? Not even knowing that you claim little Pookie on your returns. If Pookie make more than 12.5, that's your income, Mom.
Yeah, because
And if you don't count that income, if you don't include the money he made in those NILs,
Tax.
then
the IRS will get their money. So little things like
because ultimately, too, a couple of things I think we saw. Look, this is obviously the second year of the NIL. One, this is anecdotal, but there was a lot of players last year that took their eye off the prize. You saw it all over. Dudes was worried about, they weren't focused on the craft. You saw dudes worried about that NIL money. This is a true story. I was at a university for Agent Day, and I'm in the meeting and doing some things, and one of the compliance directors comes by and he's like, hey, I got a guy here that's asking about NIL. Could you talk to him a little bit about it? So kid comes by, we talking. Kid leaves, the compliance director is like, this dude's the backup punter. This true story. He said, this dude's the backup. So I say that to say, these kids are completely misguided, have wrong information, wrong ideas of really what understanding what NIL and intellectual property. One of the things, first thing we do is education. Yeah. Educating these guys to know what intellectual property is. What does it mean? Why is it important? Why does it have value? Why does it have value now when you're a collegiate player? It's going to have much more value, of course, when you become a pro. Yeah. So a large part of our NIL program, it's education. It's making sure that the families and the players understand those tax issues, that they understand. FTC, all these issues. The other thing we saw, and one of the things I think that you'll continue to see as long as there aren't regulations and rules that are standard, is all of the folks who used to wait to guys who become NFL players, NBA players or whatever, and then start taking advantage of them, these jokers are getting an early run in. Some of the stuff we saw last year as far as the contracts and the deals, again, we're corporate attorneys. We're looking at it from that kind of viewpoint. We're seeing deals that shouldn't be done, wrong terms, no terms. And so you're seeing kind of this fast run at these kids, and now it's getting into high school. So with no sight, and it doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon. It looks like it's going to get wilder and wilder and wilder. But it's a new frontier. I mean, for Adisa and I, a little bit, just the social media in general, man, is just, I mean, it's changed. But from the time I've started doing this, just to see just the social media, how it impacts the players. And I mean, the players would rather have a blue check than a game check, right? We have it's amazing just how the social,
but that's real though.
and just how we've had to really, to some degree, fully appreciate it.
Like, why? I'm focusing on the draft, bro. And you sweating us out on a blue check.
Blue check.
That blue check brings,
brings real
different things.
We get more blue check requests.
It brings different things. You know what I mean?
And
And that's just that's
the reality.
being real.
And
That's
so
just being real.
And for us, though, you know, that's the thing, Antoine, being real, it's important. And it's important for those guys. And we've had to kind
Now
of
all our rookies get a blue
check, right? We've had to respond to the marketplace in a certain kind of way. The social media, it's taking this stuff in a different angle, and I think we more fully appreciate it. But it's taking some time. I mean, it's a different world, man.
Yeah, man. Now, I've been dope, man, sitting here with you guys. I know y'all got a lot going on. Definitely to kick off for the weekend, man. We appreciate y'all sitting down, stopping in, chopping it up with us, man.
Appreciate you guys,
as always. Appreciate the work y'all doing for the young brothers, man, and the other.
Can I say one thing before we
close?
close?
Of course.
I want to give your man on air one more chance, bro. You second career now. You still could be a part of this family. You fucked up the first. No. I appreciate you, DBut.
Hey,
we appreciate y'all.
We appreciate y'all. Nothing but love, man. We appreciate you.
Man, y'all know what it is, man. Hey, that's the man-to-man pod, man. One half of them, AB.
DB.
And we out.